this video, we're going to be finding the sum and differences of polynomials. So in this first example, we have b minus 10 plus 4b minus 3. Now, sometimes I like to refer to this as circles, squares, and triangles, and you'll see why. So remember, when we're adding and subtracting, or finding the sum and the differences, we'll be combining our like terms. So to remember what a term is, a term, in this case would be like the b is a term, and the negative 10 is a term, and 4b is a term, and negative 3 is a term, because they're all separated by plus or minus signs. So what we're going to do first is we have this plus sign right here. So we're going to distribute that plus sign. We're always going to distribute our symbol. Now, distributing a plus sign is really easy because nothing really changes. So our b minus 10 will stay the same. But if I take a positive times a positive, that's still going to leave me with a plus 4b. And a positive times a negative is still a negative, so I'm still going to have a minus 3 there. And from here, I'm now able to group my like terms. So I'm starting with my first term, and I'm going to draw a circle around it. So this is just a plain b. So I have another b just right there. So those are going to go together. So b plus 4b is 5b. So I've done my circles. So I'm going to move on to my squares. So I have a minus 10 and a minus 3 because those are both constants and they don't have a letter with them. And negative 10 minus 3 is a negative 13. And in this one, there are no triangles because we've used all of our terms. And now I want to make sure I've written it in standard form, meaning it's decreasing from degrees. So here, this b has a degree of 1, an imaginary 1 there, and the 13 is a constant, so it doesn't have a variable, so it would be last, which means this is written in standard form, and so we're done. In letter B, we have x squared minus x minus 2 plus 7x squared minus x. This one works similar to letter A. So if you feel like you're ready to try it, you can push pause and give it a try, and when you're done, push play and see if you were right. So here, again, we have the plus sign, and we learned that when we distribute our plus sign, nothing changes. So we're able to write x squared minus x minus 2. And when we distribute that plus sign, we still get a plus 7x squared minus x. And now we're ready for our circles, squares, and triangles. So we're combining like terms. So we're start with our x squared because it's first. I'm going to look for other x squareds. And, oh, there's one right there. 7x squared. So x squared plus 7x squared is 8x squared. Now we'll move on to our next term, which is just a plain x. So we'll look for another plain x, and we have one back here in the back. So a negative x and a negative x. So if I have negative 1x minus 1x, that will give me negative 2x's. And I'm done with my squares. And now I've got a triangle, but it's the only triangle. And so the constant gets to be by itself in the back. Then we're going to check to see if it's in standard form. And we have our biggest degree of 2, and then a degree of 1, and then our constant, which means it's in standard form. And so we're finished. Now as we move to letter C, we've got p squared plus p plus 3 minus the quantity negative 4p squared minus p plus 3. So you'll notice that this time we have a difference. We have a minus sign there. So just like for the addition, we still have to distribute that, but this time a negative is going to change things a little bit. So nothing is happening to our front, so we can just write down p squared plus p plus 3. But when we distribute here, I'm going to do them one at a time so you can see it. When I distribute the negative to the negative 4p squared, a negative times a negative is a positive, so we'll have plus 4p squared. When I do the negative times negative p, A negative times a negative is a positive, so I'll have plus p, and then I'm going to do negative times 3. So a negative times a positive is a negative, so this will be minus 3. And now we're ready for our circles, squares, and triangles. So we'll draw a circle around our first thing, and it's a squared, so we're looking for other squareds. And here's one right here, so we'll circle that and include the plus sign in the front. So 1p squared plus 4p squared is 5p squared. Then we'll do our next term, which is a p. And we have another one right here. So p plus p is 2p. And then we are going to have our triangles, one here. Oh, and this matches as a constant. So 3 minus 3 is 0. So we don't need to write it. We don't write plus 0 down. We just don't need to write anything down. And we can check to make sure it's written in standard form. And we see we have a squared and then a 1, so it's in standard form. Go ahead and try letter D on your own. It's similar to letter C. When you're done, push play and let's see if you were right. Don't forget to push pause while you do it. So here we have negative k plus 5 minus the quantity 3x squared minus 6. So nothing's going to change my first part, but I do have a negative sign, or a minus, that will change those. So that's going to become a minus 3k squared and a plus 6. I'll draw a circle around my k, and that's the only k. It's by itself, so minus k. Then I'll draw a box around my next term, which is a 5. It's a constant, and I have another constant right here is the 6. And 5 plus 6 is 11. And so that one's done. Then I'll draw a triangle around my last term. Oops, I missed the 2. Let's try that again. I got to draw a big triangle. So negative 3k squared, and it's by itself. So negative 3k squared. And now we're going to check to see if it was written in order, if it's in standard form. So here we have a degree of 1, a constant, but then a degree of 2. Well, that's out of order. That 2 should be first. So we need to rewrite this in standard form. So it should be negative 3k squared minus k plus 11. And now it's written in standard form, and we're finished. So that's how you can find the sum and difference of polynomials. Sometimes I like to call it circles, squares, and triangles because it helps me remember what I need to do. And you might like that too.